Okay, so today I want to complete the various subjects that I haven't completed yet. And so the subject I'm going to cover now are subjects that have to do with the last P's that we have not discussed. So we finished the P of product, of the marketing mix, and we have left pricing, place for the distribution, and then promotion for the communication. So pricing is very much explained between the fact that there's someone that want to buy the lowest price as possible, and someone that want to buy that want to sell at the highest price as possible. So the manufacturer wants to sell at the highest dollar possible because they want to make the most profits, versus the consumers, they want to try to get the most value as possible, so most benefit for the lowest prices. And in between, you have obviously the competition that starts off generating some supply and demand and different prices and different monopoly and different choices and different features. So there is a fight for this concept of, is the price everything? What is beside the price? There's also the benefits, there's also the image, and all of this generates what price you can sell. So you can sell a higher price if you're more famous, a lower price if you are less famous, a higher price if your product is more higher quality, more innovative, has won some prizes. And so if you have some product that is unknown, not very competitive, therefore you need to have the lower price in order to gain market share. So pricing is very important. The concept of pricing is the only one of the 4P that does not cost money. All the other one costs money. Indirectly, the concept of pricing can cost you a lot of money, because if you're too high, you may not be selling as much as you should. And if you're selling it too low, you may have missed the opportunity of making more money. So, but in itself, it doesn't cost anything. So how do you define the cost? So there's two functions. There's the function of the fixed cost and the variable cost. The fixed cost is the cost that doesn't change with the production level. You may be producing more, but it stays the same. So it's the cost of, for example, renting a building or a machine, having paid for a machine and amortizing the cost of a machine. This doesn't change, and the employment salaries of your executives doesn't change. But then the variable cost, they vary as much as the more you produce, the more these variable costs become more expensive. So if you produce one unit, the price of this unit is going to be more expensive than if you produce multiple units, because by making more units, you reduce the impact of the fixed cost being reduced by the number of units. So you spend $1,000 as fixed cost, you're producing one unit, it's the price of the $1,000 plus the variable cost. But if you're producing 1,000 of these units, suddenly your fixed cost become $1 per unit. So the idea is the more you can produce, the more you will reduce the fixed cost. Other consideration for the cost is the fact that the more you produce something, the less expensive are the raw material in terms of units, because you also get to save on the volume. So the more you produce, the raw material, you will be buying more, and the more you buy raw material, the less expensive is this raw material. So you're making fashion garments and you're producing 10 shirts, they're going to be more expensive because you only bought 100 yards of material. But if you're producing thousands of shirts, you'll be buying hundreds of yards of material, and therefore each yard will be cheaper, and therefore you'll be able to save from the volume of production. The experience curve is also connected to the fact that you're producing more units, but it's based on the fact that you're becoming better at producing, because you are able in the same amount of time. So if your company is working 10 hours a day, in 10 hours, you will be producing more, because everyone is becoming more experienced in producing and therefore more efficient. So it's more of an efficiency. So that's important, because all of these small details are the thing that you don't take into account very easily. And it's very important that when you start in a new business, or you making an innovation, you're starting to work with new partners, you started to work in a new market, you were working in California, now you're starting to work in New York, and there's different costs there, and suddenly you have to, or your experience curve is not as good because it's a new market, and you have not as many good optimization. Also, you have new costs, and so all of this has an impact. And oftentimes, in the excitement of starting new projects, these are details that we don't take into account. And so you were planning to break even the first year, and you don't break even because this was not something that you had considered. The other elements that is important to know is the impact of pricing over people demand. So normally, when you lower the prices, people purchase more, and when you raise the prices, people buy less. Normally, that's what happens for the standard goods. But if there is some kind of emulation, people may actually buy more if you raise the price. So that's true for things that are more exclusive, for things that are luxurious. Raising the price increases demand. There are 4 main pricing methods. There's the method which is more of the accounting type of method. It's called the cost-based. So cost-based is you say, I want to make 10%. So I'm going to make sure that I add 10% to my costs. So it's my cost plus 10%. This method is very good because it's simple. The problem is if you sell multiple products, it may not be a good idea to have 10% for all of your products. There may be some products where you want more than 10% and some products where you want less than 10%. Maybe the product that you sell in large quantities with little expenses in promoting the product, you want to make 8%. But there may be some other products where you won't sell as many, but you're going to make a larger profit margin, but you're going to have to spend more money for communication per product, and there you may want to make 20%. So having one rule for every situation puts you in a position where you may be missing on some opportunity to make more money. So the cost-based is simple, but it's not very smart. The break-even based, this time it's not accounting, it's more of a finance type of perspective. The break-even based, I would say, is the one that is used by investors, the one that is used by people in finance. It's probably the smartest of the 4, because the break-even considers how much money you want to make. So you want to spend $100,000 and you want to make $10,000. So again, you're making 10%. So you're thinking of making 10%. So you have to think about the cost of your products and the cost that you're going to have to sell the product. So you sell it $100, you make $10. So you're going to have to sell 1,000 products. So then you see that if it's possible to sell 1,000 products within the first year, first month, whatever is the timing, and then you try to plot on a graph the likelihood of selling it for $100. Maybe $100 is too expensive. So you have to reduce the price. And if you reduce the price to be able to still make it 10% or $10,000, then you're going to have to increase the quantity. So you have to see, sort of simulate what would be the price you can sell, how much money you can make with the price you can sell, and how many units you plan to sell. And so the break-even, why I say is the smartest, is because I think it's the one that you all don't know, and the one that you should spend the most time to study. And in fact, it's the one that we expect you to speak the most. In this class, it will be great if you speak about break-even. That would be a pure joy. But in the next class, it's the one that we really, really want you to speak about. Because when you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for investors or partners, that's almost the most important thing. And if you look at the next time you look at a Shark Tank episode, I don't know if you like them, but if you like them, and before you look at an episode, well, just go look at an episode and then study the break-even cost-based analysis, understand what it is, and then go see the episode again, and then suddenly you're going to say, oh, I understand what they were talking about. Last time, before I knew what was the break-even, I didn't even understand 50% of what these people were talking about. But now I know what's the break even. I understand 100% exactly what they're talking about, because the sharks, it's almost like the number, I mean, it's not almost, it is the number one thing that they look at before making an investment is how much you sell, how many you're going to sell, what's my investment, how many you expect to return. The shark, 99% of the time, invest based on a perceived positive break even, and the more they perceive it to be positive, the more they want to invest in it. And that's why you see sometimes sharks not investing in everything, but investing in certain products, because they have some experience in this certain product and they know the break even that is presented to them, if it makes sense, at least to them and their experience, or if it doesn't. The more they can see this simulation, the more they believe in the simulation, the more they would want to invest in it. It's that simple. The value-based is the more marketing style. So cost-based accounting, break-even finance, value-based is definitely marketing. It's the cost, the price you're going to sell the product. At least that's what marketers believe, should not be really based on the cost. It should be based on what people perceive that it's worth. So this method why is it marketing? Because it's about the perceived value and what people expect to pay. And this concept of value is therefore trying to say, how much are they going to buy it for? How much is it worth to them? It's worth on her $100. How much does it cost us to make? So then they revert to the accounting. It cost us $90. So we're making $10. So we're making 10%. If I'm happy with 10%, then that's a good deal. So they constantly want to know what is it worth for the client. And it's a good method. However, the marketers, I think, miss the opportunity of profit. Even though, you know, the definition of marketing is the delivery of customer satisfaction at profit, so therefore that takes into account the break even, and for the long term, which takes into account the concept of relationship. Competitor-based pricing is the idea that you are looking at your competitors and the price that they sell. Your competitors are sometimes some closer, some further. So you're going to be more interested to look at the competitors that are the closest. My closest competitor, the one I associate the most with, what are their prices? And these might be the price that I take. So now, if your competitors is too high or too low and you use them as a benchmark, the problem is you may become too high or too low. They may be not realizing that this is above what people perceive to be the value, and therefore you don't sell anything, and then you think there's something wrong with your campaign, or there's something wrong with the product or the perception of the product, when it's in fact just that your price is too high. Then your competitors may be too low, and in that situation, you may be just not doing a good break even, and also miss the opportunity to make more money because the consumers were not taken into account in order to define that value. So what do I think is the best? I think the best is to really see that all of these come from different perspectives. And the last one, the competitor-based, is very much of a researcher type of a marketing research person will take competitor-based, consumer behavior marketer will take the value-based, finance break-even, and the accounting, the cost-based. So all of these different functions of business, there's some truth behind their perception. And I think the best is to realize that all of this perspective, all of these angles add value to the final price being decided. Then there are, in pricing, there are several sub-strategies. So there are strategies, but they are not the company level strategies. They are lower level strategies, and the strategies just at the P level. And so they also call P level strategy or sub-strategies. And the two big ones are scheming or penetration pricing. So scheming is when you try to sell the product at the highest price as possible, knowing that you're going to have a higher profit margin per product, but a reduced number of products being sold. So you may have actually a lower profit overall, but a higher profit per unit. So your margin is high per unit, but it's low per volume, dollar volumes. Penetration pricing is the opposite, is you decide to have a low margin per product. So let's say scheming, you make 50%, but you sell 1,000 products, versus penetration, you sell it for $49.99, but in that situation, you sell 12,000 products. So at the end, with penetration, you may be making more profit, but not per item. The advantage of scheming is because your price was so high that you can always lower the price. So you could launch a product, be scheming, and a year after reduce the price, and a year after reduce the price, and a year after reduce the price. When you do penetration pricing, the price that you sell the product from the beginning, launching the product, is already so high that you won't have as many opportunity to keep lowering. And if you lower, you really have almost no profit. So you're already very tight. But with the penetration pricing, you will get quickly a high market share and sort of dominate the channel of distribution, dominate people's share of mind and all this. But your reputation and the image of the product may not be as good. Versus scheming, you have a high reputation, it's higher, therefore people perceive what's more expensive is usually better quality. Then you can lower the prices, but you can have a slow penetration because you have scheming. So there's pros and cons for these two. And the question is, which strategy therefore makes more sense for your company? What's your reputation before launching the product? How much innovation do you have in the product that you need to pay back because you spend a lot of money in R&D? How much resources do you have to get started? I mean, if you have a lot of resources, maybe you do penetration, because penetration is, since you're going to sell large quantities of products, you're going to have to advertise more because the market share is very important. So you have to have a lot of market share money to advertise a lot. If you don't have a lot of market share money, therefore you probably should have a higher priced product with a higher authentic quality, to also go with the fact that you don't have a lot of money to advertise. So all of this is very important. That's why why do businesses fail? Businesses fail because they don't understand all the things I'm talking about, and they're just doing things based on the spur of the moment, the feeling of the moment. And therefore, then they realize that, why did we raise the price? Why did we lower the price? We missed opportunities and so forth. Then the other issue related to pricing is optional pricing. So optional pricing is when you sell products which have a lot of features that can be added. So you could sell a guitar where the string, could be upgraded. And so you could upgrade the strings, and these option of a better strings, of a different type of wood, would make the product more expensive. So you'd have the base product with less wood and with standard string, and then you'd have a better wood, better shapes, maybe some electronic things on the guitar in order to get some special accessory connected and so forth. Captive pricing is when you actually realize that the money you're going to make, most of the money, will come not so much from the product, but from what you will gain from people buying accessories to be used with the product. In that situation, we can use the example of a printer, where people will buy the printer for $200, but they would have to use a new cartridge every month, and every month they would spend $60 for the cartridge. So even though they sell this printer for $200, they make $25 for selling the printer $200, yet they sell the cartridge $60 and they make $30 for the cartridge. So they make more money from the cartridge than they make from the printer. And that will be even more exponential, because every month they will not buy a new printer, but every month they will buy a new cartridge. So the profit comes from the captive products, meaning the cartridges. Byproduct is when you make some money from something that has nothing to do with the main product that you're making. So let's say you're making furniture and you create some sawdust, and then you sell the sawdust to a zoo, for example, to use for putting inside cages or whatever. And that sawdust, normally you are even paying to get rid of it, but in that situation, you are able to sell it and make a profit versus make a loss, having to pay for it. And then bundling pricing is a sub-strategy bundling that consists in putting a bunch of products together, a combination of products together, with a lower price for the product. And in that situation, people are able to sell. So bundling in the music industry may be used for concerts, for example, where people will be able to buy season tickets. Each ticket normally is $150. Now they can buy 5 tickets for $600. So they would be saving some money by buying a set of tickets or a season ticket at once. The advantage with this is sometimes you are able to sell some maybe concerts where people are not going so much. You may be selling concerts of new people, so that way you encourage people to maybe listen to new artists. They may not want to buy tickets, and therefore you are able to sort of still make some money, a little bit more money, because you have more people spending higher amounts versus trying to buy the more popular ticket and sort of not care for the other one. Other pricing are all the concept of discounts that you can offer. So there's a lot of discounts. They could be discounts based on buying more, based on buying products that are slightly different with less features, discounts for a different time of the year, discounts if people may give you back something as a trade-in, or maybe a discount for a special event where there's a special price at this moment. Other type of discounts are or discounts or price decisions are based on who's buying. So students will pay less, senior will pay less. If you buy this product in various locations, the price will be different, duty free versus outside of the airport. The different time as well, maybe there's a moment during the day where there's people buying less. Maybe people go to concerts in different time of the year, more in the summer than in the winter, so we will have winter concert tickets cheaper. And when it comes to the product form, you can imagine someone buying a soda in a glass bottle versus buying a soda in a can. Other pricing such as loss leaders. What's a loss leader? Loss leader is a product being sold for less than what it costs. But it's not every product that you want to be a loss leader. You will specifically pick some loss leaders that would get people attention. Maybe get people to come to your website, maybe come to your app, maybe come to your store. So you will offer, for example, I don't know, barbecue that looks like it's worth $500, and you should sell for $500, and with $500 you make $100. But instead, what you do is you sell it at $3.99, so you sort of lose $1. But this barbecue is what get people to go to Home Depot or Walmart or to your barbecue store because they see that super amazing deal, and that's sort of illegal, but it's very hard to prove. And so stores do this all the time. Special event pricing, as it says, cash rebate, low interest financing. You offer more warranties. You give them extra products or free different products as a gift, or then you give them straight discount, like the discount that we previously talked about. So all of this is your P for the pricing, and that's how you sort of manage pricing in order to be able to identify what's the correct price. In practice, pricing is very, very difficult because there's no certainty, and I deal with this all the time. Right now, the difficulty with pricing that it's not mentioned here or in the textbook is when you are in a situation of inflation like this. So you have to take into account the stock that you may have already that you paid at different times, the fact that the prices are going up, but they're going up by 5%, but maybe next month it will be 10%. So what price should you sell now? Should you sell at the old price, the current inflation price, the future inflation price? Because eventually you may have to quickly renew your stock and therefore pay the higher prices. But if you didn't increase your prices now, and the price keeps going up by 5, 10, 15, 20%, and you didn't increase your prices now, then you're going to have to increase it by 20, 30%. And if you do this, therefore you create even a bigger change of pricing for your customers. So these are all the rules that I just told you in normal times, but in some crazy inflation that we have right now, it's even more complicated because you have to anticipate the cost, the future cost, in order to create your current prices, and also decide when do you change your prices, and how do you announce your client about the change of prices for them to understand. Oftentimes, the client don't understand the change of the prices, and if you give them a lot of details, they may not have the attention to look at the details. So for the most part, I find it very difficult right now to have a good pricing strategy, because everyone is constantly thinking that you're trying to rip them off if you change your prices. And so it's very delicate. Should you be just under your inflation price, or should you be just right there? Not easy. The next
Professor, really quick,
yes.
I have a question. When you have those kind of quick turnaround inflation prices, is it like sometimes do companies just like choose to release the same product with a new name under the different price to kind of get around having to say like, oh, you know, we're raising our price on this product, or is that not really a practice or practical?
To come up with a new name. Normally, you come up with a new name, normally you come up with a new name for an issue of distribution. Because normally when you sell a product, to get the people to work with you is you need to have a contract of distribution. So you say, I sell this product with you, you distribute this product, so you're going to take the charge of the distribution. That's an expensive cost. And therefore, I'm going to give you some time, 3 years, to reach this amount of sales. So normally, I want you to sell 100,000 products per year, but you're not going to do that the first year. And I'm not going to look at the number of products, not the second year. But the third year, you need to get to 100,000. If you are 100,000, you keep selling the product. Now, you find that this company is going to sell 100,000 on 2 products. But you realize that they should be, because the economy is so good or the demand is so good, that they should not be selling 102,000 products. They should be selling 300,000 products. But you have a contract and you sort of have to abide by the contract. So that's when you create a new product, because you say, no, I don't want to sell just in that market 100,000 products. So I need to create a new name and give this to a new distributor. Then the new distributor, you tell them you want to keep the contract. So for 3 years, you need to do in 3 years 500,000 units being sold. But the first year I want 150, and the second year I want 300,000. So you can have this policy, and you create different brand names, and you can create as many brand names as you have demand for the product in order to bypass the exclusivity.
So
now,
is that kind of how marketers get around inflation, or I guess a better way to put it, maybe survive inflation?
So then, for the sake of inflation, what you do is sometimes you say, to go around the inflation, what you do is you're going to sell the same product, but you downsize the product. So what you do is you either reduce the price or you downsize the product. So the best you can do is you increase the price or you downsize the product. One of the solutions is to do what I did with my cognac, for example, is I increased the price, but also I downsized the bottle. But I got lucky because the government in America, for the past hundreds of years, you could only sell bottles that were 750 milliliter. But they passed a law that you can sell 700 milliliter. So I saved 50 milliliter. Therefore, I saved a little bit. It's not huge, but at the same time, I increased the price because everything was increasing. So it's the same thing. If you go to buy a taco, and the dollar taco, it still exists, but the taco became smaller.
Right.
So that's how you can fight inflation, or you put less meat, or you put just 1 slice of tomato instead of 2 slices. And you increase by 10% the price, and you just reduce by 10% the quantity.
This is maybe a little bit tangential. Is there a way for marketers to potentially and hypothetically market the United States out of inflation? Or
Well,
is that just kind of wishful thinking?
well, the problem is the inflation is not just a US thing, it's a global thing.
Right.
The inflation is it's like a domino effect. So it's based on energy, it's based on the fact that we have, there's more social support, there's more taxes. So it's hard to stop the inflation because people have found a way of, creating. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but no. So people have found a way of creating a society where there's more support, but at the same time they raise the taxes. And also, I think that it's a society where the taxes are not very well used because we are not frugal with the money. We're sort of living above our means, I think.
Yeah.
And so we're living above our means, and we are not frugal, and in some way, the government may not be as efficient. Everything is costing more money, and it's hard to sacrifice. People want to keep their comfort. There's a lot of fights in keeping things the way they are, and that people are more sensitive to changes, and so that's why it's gonna. I don't know how this can change, and then we have war left and right looming, and solution for a change of energy. But when you look at the solution, they create even more inequities, and so it's very, very difficult to see that this can come out. We can come out of this without some serious disruption in our society. Yeah, and also there's a loss of credibility and a loss of moral. I think people are becoming disillusioned more and more by everything that they believed before. Disillusioned by the government, disillusioned by the authority, disillusioned by justice. So all of this is creating a lot of anxiety, and so that's not helping. At least if people have a good mood and good attitude and really looking forward and all this, and the economy is bad, then you can see. And so the inflation, I don't know that marketers can turn this around. The only way you can reduce inflation is by taking advantage of someone, by decreasing labor costs. And the way to decrease labor costs is to get things made overseas. But that's eventually comes and gets you back, because if you make things overseas, then you don't make anything back in America. So it may be good in the short run, but in the long run, you boosted the economy, because then you created a society of consumption, but not of manufacturing. And then the manufacturing done somewhere else. But if you do this for 20, 30 years, eventually the work is gone somewhere else, and the somewhere else become wealthy. And so there's a unbalance. And then you're left to manufacture the only thing that you can manufacture that the other one can't manufacture, and they are weapons, essentially. Because nobody can manufacture weapons as good as you do, or you have some access to some raw resources that nobody has. So yeah, we're trying to reinvent the world, I feel, right now, on the civilization, and it's very difficult because it's a lot of conflict of interest and so forth. So that's where is the inflation, and everybody is looking for their own, and there's not a sense of community as well. This has gone. The sense of the family values are gone. So all of these are things that have sort of disappeared. Sorry, I give you a long answer on this.
No, that's okay. This is all funneling into something in my own brain.
And so, and I feel terrible because I'm seeing a lot of negatives, but I've not been like this. I'm a very positive person, but I think all of this is happening all around us. We all feel it, and it's a question of everyone realizing all of that and wanting, well, for all of this to change. But for all of this to change, it's going to take more educated people, and a sense of community needs to come back for everyone to see that we can only make this work if we all do it together, sort of thing. But
That sounds an awful lot like propaganda. Haha.
yeah, that's right. Well, propaganda is everything.
Right.
You can
exactly.
use it for the good or the bad, but I think I hope the good comes back.
Yeah.
Anita, you've had your hand up for a while. I was not ignoring you. I was just trying to answer a question.
No, it's totally fine. So when you started your cognac company and you were doing the research to decide if you were actually going to implement it and start the company, which pricing method did you use? Question number one.
Okay, that's a good question.
And then question number two, when you said you reduced, because I've checked into your cognac and your bottling and everything, pricing number two is when you reduce the bottle size from 750 milliliters down to 700. How did you know that was going to be cost effective and changing the bottling size as well as the manufacturing before break even became viable because you were using less supplies? So how did you go through that process?
So so several questions. The first question is, when I launch my cognac, there's the theory and there's what you should do, and sometimes it's very difficult because sometimes the people know what they should do, but they're scared and all this. So when I launched my cognac, I realized that I needed to understand the positioning of my cognac. I was producing less than my competitors, which meant that I was going to be either much cheaper or more expensive than them because I was more limited. The problem is, in my industry, there's one brand. So there's 250 brands of cognac, and there's one brand that do 80%. So there may be some other industry like Apple. I mean, Apple does 10% or something like this. But me, in my situation, there's one brand out of 250 that do 80%. So for me to say I can be more expensive, that one brand was very difficult. If that brand had 8% or 12%, and I said I was more expensive than them, people, I would say, oh yeah, you're more expensive than, so that's okay. But more expensive than, so that was a big problem. So unfortunately, I couldn't really play in my favor because every time I was trying to be more expensive than them, everybody was telling me, therefore, we won't buy. And I was not blocked by the consumers. I was first blocked by the distributors. So people in the class right now may be confused that this has nothing to do with the subject, but it does, because we're talking about distributor now, and what I was saying is very important, because there's a bargaining power between manufacturers and distributors. There's a bargaining power between musicians and the label and the distribution and all of this, because there's constant bargaining power. You've got the music, you have fans. No, if you have the music and the fans, then the distributor likes you. But if you just have the music and no fans, it doesn't work. So when I started my cognac business, which was already almost 200 years old, but I had to revive the business, I had no people looking for my brand. So therefore, if I was more expensive and so, I had to have a budget in order to justify why I was more expensive. But a budget had to be huge because that brand is so massive. I mean, that brand now is the exclusive brand for the NBA, for example. It's a brand that advertises millions of dollars pretty much probably every day. I don't even have this for one day. They have this for 365 days. So I couldn't be more expensive, where in fact I should have been. So what I did is I placed myself at the same price. And even that was crazy. But I was justifying it by being less famous, but more limited. So it worked. What became kind of crazy is then my prices went up because I made them more exclusive. I also tried to make them better quality. So then because they were better quality, that was costing me more. Therefore, I was making less money than the big brand. And so I decided to raise my prices above the big brand. And once I started doing this, my sales went up as well. So because I won 3-time world best cognac maker, and people didn't understand, how could this be the best and not as expensive? And so I had to raise the price for them to feel good about the purchase, to justify. I have the best cognac that people don't know, but it's a little bit more expensive, so it's the real thing. And I felt bad about doing this because I'm sort of an honest person and this is a family business. And I knew, I read Bernie's, that this would probably happen, but I felt like I was cheating people by raising the price. But eventually I started feeling better because I made them feel better to spend more money. And I felt like, that's still marketing. You're still satisfying people. I was satisfying people more, having them spend more money. And then I was also satisfying my family more because we had more money. So all in all, it was all positive. So that was the pricing. That was your first question. Then you had another question, which was, sorry.
When you decided to, when the government
Oh yeah,
changed
the bottles.
bottle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what happened is I never thought they would going to change the bottle, but the big issue with the change of bottle was that the 750 bottles are only made for the United States. So they make, I don't know, 100 millions of them, versus the 700 they made for all the other countries in the world. So they made 10 billions of them. Because they make 10 billions of them, they sell them 25% cheaper. So then I would save on the purchase of the bottle plus the volume that would go inside. So it was, if you want, it was when we look at the micro environment, and then you have the macro environment. In the macro environment, there is regulation. So the regulation that was organized by the government was actually made not for people to save on the volume, but they just know that there was also an issue with inventory. So when you wanted your bottle, oftentimes they'd say, no, next month, oh, sorry, in 3 months, versus the 700, there's always some. And in fact, the government didn't know about COVID and the war in Ukraine, but that they decided this in 2019, which was perfect, because in 2019, suddenly we had the COVID a few months after that, and then we had the war in Ukraine right now, which has essentially reduced by 95% the amount of bottles. And so the fact that now there's no more 750 that are required is great, because the producer of bottles have a hard time and they have an easier time to make the 700 millimeter. So it's saving.
So that whole change, it really didn't create a burden for your company financially, as far as that goes, because you were already in production with the 700 all over the other countries, not the US, but all over. So it wasn't a new implementation that
Yes,
you were
exactly.
doing. Okay.
Exactly. So what it was a savings for the US.
Yeah.
So yeah. And what I told you right now, I know it's something else than music, but it's this mentality that works for every industry. Is you have to be constantly on your toe, looking at the environment, looking at regulatory, and then looking at the micro, the intermediaries, the suppliers. That's what's inside the circle, and constantly look for gaps, opportunity from a supply, opportunity from a change of regulation, opportunity from obviously the war in Ukraine is definitely not an opportunity. That's a threat. And so you're constantly balancing all of this. And so what I've done is, before I had several models of bottles, because I have about a dozen type of cognacs that I sell. And because I had a dozen type of cognac, I had a dozen type of bottles. Everyone had a different bottle in order to differentiate them. Now I don't do this anymore. I try to have the same bottle for all of them in order to, again, counteract. And this is not just me. In fact, it's the entire industry. Everybody's doing this. Trying to have, like the paper for the packaging is starting to go away. That's the next thing, is people are going to start realizing there's no more gift cases and all this, because most of them came from China and this and that, and the fair trade and buy local, and all of this are opportunities that impact how people purchase. They want to buy local. That's what has helped a lot. Bourbon during the COVID and all that, people were buying bourbon because it's American, and they were saying be local.
Yeah, got it. So circling back to our music and the interview with Andre James, and how he had said that his goal is to drop 3 singles. Was it a week?
A week.
A week. So 3
Yeah.
singles a week he's going to drop. So in that case, just depending on how much he puts out, but it's the quality of what he puts out. because if he doesn't keep up his type of music, his quality, then people aren't going to be listening. And that could
Yes,
actually hinder him as
yes.
far as so much distribution. Okay.
In this
All right.
situation, what I think you should focus on doing 3, at least because that gives him some kind of objective. And it's like someone that says, "Oh, I'm going to go 3 times at the gym," so they hope they go 1 time a week at the gym. And so that thing for him, it's this. Hey, okay, 3, that's good. That way you do 1. I mean, if he was to do 1 a week and it's pretty good, after several weeks, he'll have something decent that is really in business. And so I think they may be, because at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to do 3, but if he focus on 3, maybe at 1.8 a week. And after 3 months, that'd be a good number. And then if he's working with some collaboration and he's really enjoying it, putting back the work and the discipline and all this, that's when things starts clicking, I think. So, but honestly, I think it's a lot 3, and I'm worried that if he does 3, there will be nothing too special within those
Right.
3, and then it's just volume, and volume doesn't generate success.
Well, it can actually hurt you, volume
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
it hurts you because people they listen to all of this and they just go, "Oh, none of them I like," and then they don't listen to anything anymore.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
your questions. So distribution is a fantastic and very fascinating subject. And we see in the music industry, it's tremendous, and I wouldn't say it's as important as the music itself, but it has a huge impact. And the reason for this is because there are intermediaries that you have to deal with. And the reason for this is because there's cost associated with making the music and making it available in the hands of the listener. And so that cost is huge, and you want to share this cost with someone else that may be specialized. So what do they do? What's their specialty? Their specialty is to match the product with the customers, getting some information, promoting the product, taking some risk, financing, negotiating. So distributors are necessary because they take a piece. So distributors are important because they pay for your product. See, when I make my cognac, I actually almost don't sell any of my cognac directly to customers, to people that actually drink it. I sell it to distributors that buy several pallets, and on each one of these pallets, there's 1,000 bottles. So someone buy a pallet, it's 1,000 bottles. They buy a container, there's 10 pallets in the container. So it means they buy 10,000 bottles. 10,000 bottles is a lot of money, and that keeps me busy for a while. And so that's what I do. So I work on this, but at the same time, that does the financing for me. How can I finance this? I can finance this with the bank, because I go to the bank, show the invoice, and then based on this invoice, the bank gives me 20%. With the 20%, I go pay the bottle, the label, all of these different things. And that allows me to make this production, sell it to these people. These people pay me, and then I pay back the bank, and then that's all the business flow. But even better than this, without using the bank, what I do is I get financed by the distributor. So the distributor gives me a down payment. Then I use this down payment to give a down payment to all the intermediaries. And eventually, that way, I don't have to pay the interest rate from the bank. It's actually being paid by my distributors. I should probably not post this on the internet, but it will be posted on the internet. So all my distributors, if they listen to that, they'll know. I hope they won't. Am I the only one doing this in the world? No. Do I recommend you to do that? Yes. Should everyone do that? Yes. You should be using your distributor to finance your production. Do the distributors know that? Yes. Do they like to do that? No. What do you do? You try to do that. That's your objective. Their objective is not to do this. So their objective is to pay nothing and maybe get a letter of credit, for example, or to get some kind of insurance that they will pay you. So you pay an insurance. This insurance ensures that these people will be paid. These people get a business credit, and with their business credit, all the insurance companies giving them an insurance for being paid from these people, but you have to pay a percentage of the invoice to your insurance company. But then you are warranted to be paid. So there's all kinds of ways to be paid, but with the distributors, it's always this question is, what do they do for me? Besides financing and storing your product, because sometimes that's a problem as well. And this happened during the COVID. I don't even know if very few people are heard about it, even though it's huge, but that's probably because they don't want people to hear about it. If you were in Saudi Arabia during the COVID, the government was giving away oil, which means that if you went to Saudi Arabia with a big boat, a super tanker, and you brought the super tanker, at one time they were even paying you to get the oil. Why were they paying people to get the oil? Normally you go there and you pay millions of dollars to fill in the tanker. Imagine in that situation, they were giving $100,000 to people to come and fill in, because it takes a lot of money to stop the pump. All of these pumps were pumping and they had no space to put the oil that was coming out. So they had to actually pay people to come and pick it up, because they were hoping in a month, in 6 months, the business to go back, and then they didn't want to stop it because they would have lost more money to stop all of this and start again than actually pay people to pick up the oil. So if you remember during COVID, you went to the gas station and the oil was not $0, or they were not paying you to get it off the gas station. And there's a reason for that, because most of what you are paying was taxes, and most of what you are paying is the service of refinery and distribution of the product to the gas pump. But it could have been free, but it was not. It was free if you went to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. No, Venezuela, I don't know, but at least the Middle East, it was free there. So there's a cost even in storing. That's what I'm trying to say, and therefore you want to transfer this cost. So all of this cost is also a specialty, because you can say, I want to use as many intermediaries as possible, and that usually increase the quality of your distribution. So the intermediaries are the wholesaler, then the jobber, and the retailer. The jobber is a broker, is someone that is in between and putting the relationship, or maybe the person that does the transportation. That's your jobber. What is a direct channel distribution is when you are selling your music yourself directly from your account. So you can do that. The problem with this is that therefore you're gonna have to spend the money in order to get people to buy your product. So in my situation, can you actually buy my cognac, for example, directly from my website? You actually can. You go to my website, you look at the pictures and it says buy, you click. And actually it's kind of magic, but you can even buy it from France directly to the United States. It should be extremely illegal, and it is extremely illegal, but I'm using a channel of distribution with a custom clearance company that actually pays a fee and has a license to actually do this. It's kind of crazy. I don't deal with this. So why don't you deal with this? I actually have a company who is like a lawyer who actually takes care of doing that. So I have a system on my website where you click on it, the information gets sent to a lawyer where it goes, based on where it goes, which country it goes. It goes to Russia, it goes to Japan, it goes to America. There's different lawyers, different rules, and that's organized by this lawyer. And then they draft it from an inventory, which I have somewhere in the middle of Europe, and then it gets shipped to all of these places. But the problem is this as a cost. Maybe it's better that I have distributor in different countries. So I have both. I have distributors in different countries, plus I have my direct channel. The beauty of the direct channel is I do make more money per product with the direct channel than I do when I sell to a distributor. A distributor buys something, he buys it $10, and then he sells it for $50 to the customers when it gets to the United States. But when I sell it to a consumer on my website, it's actually 48 euros. So people pay about the same. If I don't make it the same price, then I cannot work with distributors, because distributors look at my website and say, your price on your website is too low. How can I be a distributor? There is a margin that goes. Normally, the margin is 20%, 30%, and 50%, which means that the wholesaler usually make 20%. And then an importer makes another 30%, and then a retailer makes 50%. Not all industry is like this, 20, 30, 50. And not every country is like this, 20, 30, 50. But it's very important to know that every intermediary makes a certain percentage, which adds to the price of the product. The more intermediaries you have, the more your product's going to be expensive at the end. But at the same time, the more intermediaries you have, the better you're going to be serving the customers, because people that are getting this kind of money are doing it for the purpose that they making it closer to the customers. So then it's a question of value. How much does your product need to have the supporting intermediaries? You know, so if you're selling car tires, you need this support, but if you're selling salt, maybe you don't need this support. So every industry is different. And in the music industry, you would find maybe there's different variation depending on the music genre and the target and the country where you're selling music, the amount of intermediaries that you have. There may be countries, let's say in Africa, where you don't need that many intermediaries, just one is enough. There may be some music that you can sell more easily direct versus some other where you need more support. We talked about the pricing sub-strategies. Now let's talk about the distribution sub-strategies. There's three and they're very simple. Intensive distribution, you sell it everywhere. Selective distribution, you don't sell it everywhere. And exclusive distribution, you sell it in very specific places. So if I had to put this in a percentage from 0 to 100, intensive distribution is you sell it 100% of the places, there's no limitation. Selective distribution is you sell it 50% of the places, and exclusive distribution is you sell it 5% of the places. Depending on the product that you sell, you want to have more or less. Now there's a concept which is very important, is push and pull. Push strategy is when you are providing incentives to the distributors, for the distributors to provide incentive to the customers. Versus pull strategy is the opposite, is you provide incentive directly to the customers, for the customers to create trade leverage to the distributors for them to want to carry the product. And when I say distributors, that means wholesaler and retailers combined because they both distribute the product. So what does all that mean? That means if you are a very famous brand, usually famous because you have fans, you have people that follow you, the people seeking your brand, everybody knows your brand, that's what they want. So you are Coca-Cola, people go to the supermarket and they're looking for Coca-Cola, and therefore the distributors, they have to carry Coca-Cola even though they don't want to. They have no choices, they have to carry Coca-Cola. Because you are making the consumers want your product, and you tell them that it's the most refreshing things, it's the only best drinks and all of this. So it's sort of, your propaganda has worked so well that the retailers have no choices. So that's really the power of the brand. The power of the brand generates a pull strategy. The push strategy, it's the quality of your product, it's the margin, the profit margin of your product that will get the wholesaler to buy the product. So the profit margin is the fact that they can make more money with your product. You know, the big brand don't have a big profit margin for the distributor. The big, in terms of the unit profit margin, meaning that on a Coca-Cola, they make, 5% margin, but they sell hundreds of thousands of these, the supermarket, versus on a Virgin Cola, they're going to make 15 cents, but they just sell 1,000. So they may want to have both brands for different reasons. One is a volume profit maker versus the other one is a high profit margin maker. Push strategies, you're also going to give discounts. So you give discounts to the wholesaler who may not pass this discount to the customers, but they may also pass. So you give them a 20% discount for the wholesaler, and then they give a 10% discount to the customers. So again, there's more profit to sell this product, and so they get incentivized. Push and pull is when you do both. Maybe you have traditional advertising, maybe social media, then you pay some influencers, they talk to the customers, and then the customers want your product. But at the same time, you offer incentive to the distribution to carry your product. So the push and pull strategy is a strategy, and it's a strategy at the distribution level. So what's important to understand is that there's benefits in using distributors because they help you with the logistics. They help you with all kinds of function of the logistics, such as where is it most effective to move your products, what are the warehousing that you could use in the way, and also help you with the order processing and keeping inventory, and also collecting information on the market in order to help you design the future products. The transportation and logistics talks about the different means of transportation. You have the train, the truck, the water, the pipeline, the air, and all of these have pros and cons depending on what you're transporting, based on how delicate is the product that you're transporting, how toxic, how heavy, how sort of luxurious and dangerous to transport, all of that, and how quickly you want to get this product, and the safety that you may need. I mean, if you're moving diamonds, you need a certain safety, but if you're moving some kind of chemicals, you also need a certain safety. So everything works within these boundaries, and the destination, there's locations that are easier. So can it get there fast? So there's a question of speed, the question of the fact that you may have deadlines for deliveries. There may be destinations that are more open. There's a question of cost. And so all of this has an impact on which transport you're going to use. Now, talking about the distribution, you cannot help to think about this concept of bargaining power, which is who has most bargaining power? The manufacturer, meaning the artist, or the distribution company, meaning those labels. The reality is that it's very tough to see how this works. The person that produces has a control over the quality. They have their reputation. They also contribute to the profit margin and the profit altogether of the distributor. And they have people that follow this brand and have some level of loyalty that make them buy and buy again and refer to other people and so forth. The distributor has this advantage of their location being virtual, I mean, based on an app or based on a location on a website, based on the physical location. Then there's this concept of sales volume. A distributor is a large buyer for most manufacturers, and therefore we have different, when we are a manufacturer, we do B2C and we do B2B, because we have to, if we do B2C, we have no choices but to be B2B as well, because we have to sell it to someone to become an intermediary for our customers. So they are very important because of the sales volume. Then they also have their own loyalty, because they may have a club, they may have large quantities of customers, they may have people that are members and so forth, and their reputation is also very important. So all in all, who usually has the most power, you think? The manufacturer or the distributor?
The distributor.
Yes,
Probably.
exactly. That's right. So most of the time, unfortunately, the one that has the most power are the distributor. And so that's why if you look at the 20 richest company, you will find that there's a lot of companies that are just distributor. And they get a lot of power. I mean, you're looking at Amazon, you're looking at Walmart, you're looking at Netflix, you're looking at all of this. Being in the manufacturing is very complicated. Being in the distributorship is much better, because oftentimes you're just a broker, you don't have too much ownership, and all you're doing is the services of creating the connections. And this concept of having inventory, and this concept of having the production, the concept of having to take a lot of the risk is very, very complicated. So what the distributor do in order to become more powerful is they become licensed manufacturer at the same time. So they're going to use what's called private labels in order to have the product also available. So if they are selling butter, famous brands of butter, suddenly they create their own butter. So it's like called Safeway butter. And Safeway butter allow them to beat the manufacturer because they have their own brand and they can increase their bargaining power. What can a manufacturer do in order to become more competitive? What they can do is just keep their brand relevant, grow their brand, grow their specialty, become known as the brand, which is synonymous with the product that they're selling, and growing this reputation and growing their relationship with the customers is very, very important, because that's what gives the legitimacy of being a manufacturer. The consumers are looking for that brand, and they know that this is the brand that they want. So it's expensive to grow your brand, because you have to constantly do R&D, develop new products, and you have to constantly invest in this relationship with the customers. So what is retailing? Retailing is selling directly to distributors that will sell the product to the customers. when you're a distributor, what's very important is to think about the assortments, the different products you sell, but also the store atmosphere. Then, what is it to be a wholesaler? A wholesaler is when you sell the product, not directly to the final customers, but you're selling it to a business that will be using what you sold to them and then sell it to maybe another wholesaler, a smaller wholesaler, or maybe sell it to a retailer. So sometimes it's not very clear because there are some wholesalers that are also retailers like Costco. And so they are acting on both sides, but normally they are considered more of a wholesaler than a retailer. The one that I want to talk about specifically is the broker. So the broker is a type of wholesaler which is really amazing because it's an intermediary that makes connection between distributors and manufacturers. So the most famous brokers that we all know are real estate broker, insurance broker, but there's many brokers. In fact, there's brokers in every industry, people that put people into contact in order to help facilitate. I use brokers there's broker for the wine and spirits, there's broker for the oil industry, there's broker for the dairy product, there's broker for furniture, there's broker for carpeting, there's broker for paint, there's broker for everything. And that's a great job because it's a job where you invest in yourself by building a relationship that you can use down the road in order to make this connection. So oftentimes there are people that are very sociable, that constantly meet some people, they constantly look to meet new people, keep a relationship. So they are very outgoing people that likes to throw parties, that like to invite, that are good at remembering names, they are constantly going in events, organizing events. And so it's based on the more people you know, the more you can network, the more you can become a broker, and the more you can facilitate. But there's a lot of not disciplined broker and they fail. There's a lot of people that become broker because they see that they become their own boss and they do what they want when they want, but that's not a good discipline. And there's a lot of brokers as well that are not into services, but when you are into brokering, you have to really think about what the people want and see how the environment changes in order to adapt. So the trend in wholesaling is it's becoming harder to be a wholesaler because a lot of the manufacturer, in order to counteract the fact that wholesalers have the power of buying in large quantities, they start becoming wholesaler themselves. So I can see that in my industry all the time as they develop one brand, two brands, multiple brands in different categories in order to be able to bond together and have their own distribution, their own hubs. The issue is that retailers are also becoming wholesalers themselves. So you have the producers that are becoming wholesalers, and you have the retailers that are becoming wholesalers. And so the wholesalers is squished in the middle. Wholesalers, to survive, they need to keep increasing services. Normally, a wholesaler, what they like to do is to sell in large quantities. But wholesalers are starting to be more flexible. And also, so if you're in the fashion industry, a wholesaler would like to sell you 1,000 yards of material, and they don't sell less than 1,000 yards because it's too much effort. Then you find that they're starting to sell 500 yards and 200 yards in order to offer more flexibility. And also, another thing they do is they will sell you a large quantity, and they will give you the opportunity to get all of these delivered in several periods, because they understand that for the manufacturer to receive all of this at once is a cost. And oftentimes the wholesaler won't have the space in order to get all of this product. So they're going to sell the product, store the product, and then month to month deliver the product. So they add services. And then wholesalers are going overseas in order to be able to contact some markets. So now the promotional mix, and that's the last P that I want to talk about, is the fact that you have different activities in promotion. You have public creation, direct marketing. So public creation is creating some content to sprinkle the contents in various means of communication. So the main communication used by PR are trade shows, newsletter, websites, social media, direct marketing. So direct marketing is having a list, a database of people, and then contacting people through this database by using the phone, using emails, using fax is still used, but I mean, we see it's becoming almost inexistent. Mail and cell phone messages as well. Personal selling is Salesforce, people trying to speak directly to consumers. Sales promotion is a method of communication that consists in offering incentives directly to the consumers with a specific period of time for a specific product. And so you'll have different incentives for different times for different customers. And then advertising is a paid form of communication where the organization being advertised is clearly identified, and therefore this is known to be commercial, and which is not the case with PR. PR is a form of communication that is not perceived by consumers as being commercial. And that's why influencers in social media are still believed to be non-commercial by most consumers, and they were non-commercial maybe 10 years ago, but for the past 10 years that became a job, and essentially they are just product or brand endorsers that are paid to give information about a product. But PR is also in charge of working with the media and working with the media to inform the media, to create content, to spread among the media, for the media to take this content and then put it inside their channels. PR is also the people that are the best trained to create annual reports, brochures of the company. I said they're creating the website, but PR is also very good at dealing with issues. So maybe your company did something that was wrong. The PR people are sort of trained to speak in public. They train to create rumors and to sort of have the right thing to say at the right time. So communication is about, one, informing, but that's not about selling, it's just making sure people know. Persuading, so this time it's creating an incentive, a reason to buy now. Comparing is looking at who people are buying if they're not buying you, and what should they buy you. Or maybe they don't know about you, but they know about your competitors, so you associate yourself with your competitors, so that way you put yourself at the same level. So that's used a lot in politics, for example, comparative advertising. And it's not legal in every country. There's a lot of countries where it's illegal, but in America, for the most part, it's legal. And then reminder advertising is essentially just re-informing or re-persuading, because you can't be just persuading, you have to constantly renew this persuasion. So the communication model is you have a source, the sender, that use a message. So that's what they're going to say, the words or the image they're going to use. Then you have the channel that you have to select. What's going to be the best way? Should it be TikTok? Should it be Newsweek? Should it be the Wall Street Journal? Should it be this influencer? And then the receiver is the person receiving it. And the issue here is, did they understand? So first you have to encode. So that's between the message and the source. And then decode, which is between the media and the receiver, is, did they understand what this is about? And then how did they respond? Okay, so I've explained all of this. So let's talk about one specific digital communication. So digital communication is the idea that you have to use the new technology in order to communicate with your consumers in a direct marketing way. So the main methods are websites, search ads, display ads, and email. The advantage is you can offer directly some messages to the consumers, and they are custom to the consumers. You can monitor the effect of these messages in terms of being read, being opened, and also being clicked on. And then you can put it in different places and see the reaction of where you put it and where it gets the most attention and the most click through. So they can be used in combination with advertising, traditional advertising, but the disadvantage is people can sort of move away from this message and ignore them. People may be clicking on things, but they are not actually showing that they are interested. The problem is also you can get into a situation where you get hacked, and therefore you have to think in terms of security. So the 7 keys is that you need to create the content, you need to make sure that you have a community, you have some element of customization, that you think about the system of communication, one that is more effective for the type of customers you're going after, and then that you try to monetize something from this system. Social media is growing and it continues to grow, and it's more and more used by every companies, and there's new ways and new platforms that are constantly being created, and one phase into another, MySpace into Facebook, Facebook into Instagram, Instagram into TikTok, and all of these sometimes still exist, but they exist for certain targets. And so they start with the young people, then they end up with the older people. They start with being free, and eventually people have to pay, and there's different levels within and so forth. So all of this is changing, and so it's very important to see the evolution of the media in the type of information that you're offering. What's very important is not to think that social media is the only media. The more you use it in combination to the traditional media, the more they are effective. The idea is you want to create word of mouth. You want to create some kind of buzz. You want people to want to try the product. You want people to also pass this information, so it's from one to another, and so people get excited about the product and eventually want to try it. So mobile marketing is sort of the newest form of marketing, which consists in creating apps, which gives people the opportunity to download information. It's sort of a website, the new form of website where people are not going to the internet, but they are directly receiving information from using the app in order to get information. The thing is with the apps is you control better the flow and where people go. With the website, there's more freedom for the consumers in selecting where do they go. With the apps, there's usually less selections, and therefore you have a better control of the different steps that they go through. So you want the mobile marketing to be tied to a specific user. So the user, you recognize who's the user, and that way you can learn about the user and be able to offer them specific information based on where did they go and what are they looking and what they seem to be the most interested. It's on all the time. It allows them to shop directly from the app, and they can get information which is interactive because they can ask questions, be answered. They can read other people's information and other comments. How does the mobile marketing works the best? So the words should take no more than 50% of the screen, so it should be mostly 50% pictures or more. The brand should have a very short tagline, which is gets attention. There should be a few bright colors, because if there's too many bright colors, the people don't get the attention on these. And there should be some call to action, so that way people actually go into buying something or learning more about the product. There's so much more to say about all of these new technologies, but I wanted just to have a brief review of this because it's changing all the time, and it's very important to stay current for all of that. Do you have any questions? So what we're going to do now is move into the last two presentations. The first one we're going to look at is the subject of electric cars. So we have group 1 who's going to come and tell us about the electric car and what is their perspective, and then we will finish with Nishwaki, which I hope we will have a lot of explanation about the opportunities and what are the opportunities that they see to be important for this artist. So first, let's call on group 1 to present Tesla, the electric car. And what I'm hoping is that they have been inspired by the presentation that were done prior, which can be used in order to explain the electric cars and the different perspectives. Is it you, Matthew, who's gonna share?
Yeah, I'll be sharing my screen. Let me pull it up right now. Just give me one sec. Okay. Everyone see the screen?
Yep, you're good.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see.
Okay, perfect. So we are group 1. It's me, Noah, and Stefan, and this is Tesla and Perspectives. So we will get into it. So this is just the agenda of how things are going to go. So first we'll talk about the world ban of gas cars. Then we'll go into a case study of Tesla. Then we're going to talk about problems. And then we'll end kind of just with a slide about, gas cars versus electric cars, and our electric car is the solution for the future. So first up, I just have 2 videos to show. One's from ABC News, talking about the United States and specifically California, which has taken the charge. And then the second one talks about the EU, European Union, about what they will be doing. So just one sec.
Oh, yes. So there's a summary on this. Sorry.
Climate change, banning the.
Yeah.
Just a second. I just want everyone to remember this is the last summary, because there was a chat on that and everyone was saying, yes, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want anyone to miss the last summary subject. So your group 1, you don't have to do anything. You see what I'm saying? Because everybody else is doing the summary. So sorry to interject.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so this will be, I'm just going to play from the start. This one, we'll talk about
Have
USA.
taken a historic vote on climate change, banning the sale of all new gasoline-powered cars by 2035. A first-in-the-nation rule by the country's largest state is expected to be adopted in more than a dozen other states, some suggesting it could be the beginning of the end for internal combustion engines in the U.S. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman.
Tonight, California regulators voting to ban the sale of new gasoline-only vehicles by 2035, calling it historic.
Madam Chair, the motion passes. All right, yay!
The ban, one of the first of its kind in the world, hoping the tailpipe goes the way of the horse and buggy.
In California, this is a game changer as it relates to the environment. There's nothing else that will move the needle on greenhouse gases more than tailpipe emissions.
The new directive will require California to double the number of zero-emission vehicles on the road in fewer than 4 years. That target then increases to 68% by 2030.
But I think what's important here is that California is setting these standards that start in 2026 and give this roadmap of how we're going to get to 100%.
Governor Gavin Newsom today calling the plan a tipping point for the country. What do you think the ripple effects are going to be?
So that's just giving a little information about here in the United States and California, and then here we'll talk about the EU.
European lawmakers have voted to ban the sale of new diesel and gasoline cars and vans in the EU from 2035. 339 MEPs in the European Parliament voted in favor of the plans, which had been proposed by the European Commission, the EU's executive branch. There were 249 votes against the proposal, while 24 MEPs abstained. I am thrilled that the European Parliament has backed an ambitious revision of the targets for 2030 and supported a 100% target for 2035, which is crucial to reach climate neutrality by 2050. Dutch MEP Jan Huytema said, click the link in the bio for more.
So these are both credible news sources. The first one was ABC News. The second is CNBC. So now we're going to go into the gas ban. So first, a lot of questions people might have is like, what is the gas ban? What's going on if you're not up to date on this? So the European Union approved a law that will ban the sale of combustion engine cars in its member states from 2035. So for Germany and Italy, as well as for Romania, Bulgaria, and the Czech Republic and Hungary, the new bill sets a first deadline for the sale of gasoline-powered cars. The current governments of the former two countries, however, have already spoken out against the ban, calling into question the timeline of the phase-out that climate scientists call absolutely necessary, but that could also face delays. So back from even like 2020, there's been different date changes every year, like updated in 2021, updated to 2022, and now we're in 2023 as different countries kind of figure out based on production demands, like when this will be viable in reality to actually move towards all electric vehicles being sold to their citizens. So similarly, the US is going to have this as well. As you saw in the first video, California is setting a phase out date for new sales of vehicles also for 2035, and 17 other states previously tied their vehicle standards to California's under the Federal Clean Air Act law. Several now do want out though. The states going along with California's decision currently, and again, this is changing, but they are Washington, Oregon, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, and Delaware. While hybrids were initially expected to be phased out, as well as in California, some advanced hybrids with large battery power will now be allowed. So again, the laws are changing. There now might be hybrids allowed by 2035 with those fleets of electric cars. Other nations treating hybrids favorably and their phase outs are also Canada, Slovenia, Singapore, and Japan. But again, most nations want the hybrids to be completely eliminated by 2035. That's kind of the new date. But again, here, these are both from Statista. You could see for the countries, it varies. Like Norway's planning to do it by 2025, South Korea 2025. Then, you'll kind of move into some other countries doing 2030. Japan moved to 2035, the UK moved to 2035. New York just announced they're going to be joining by 2035, and it kind of goes down the list where China is 2040, France 2040, Egypt 2040, and Costa Rica 2050. So again, it kind of just varies, and then you can see on the graph here as well. It reflects what the chart is saying. So just kind of interesting, and it'll be ever changing as the years go on, I'm sure. So now Noah will pick it back up with the case study.
All right, thank you, Matthew. So before I get into the Tesla case study, I thought we'd do a little quick timeline of electric cars. So the very first electric car came out in 1890 by William Morrison. Before this, it was all horse and buggy. But when this car came out, it was just a 6-passenger vehicle, not even, it just looks like a wagon pretty much. Had a top speed of 14 miles. And then fast forward to 1908, Henry Ford launched the Model T, which was a very successful car. It was it paved the way for modern assembly lines Ford vehicles to this day. And he wanted a car affordable for the mass of the United States. Fast forward to 2009, fast forward to 2009. We have a company, Rivian, that is technically the first company to have all electric vehicles. They were, when they came out, they had a good pitch to the world that Amazon and Ford, they ordered about 1,000 electric vans from that company. And because of that, that paved the way for Tesla moving forward to 2012 when Elon Musk released the Model S, which paved the way for modern electric cars to this day. Next slide, Matt. So after looking at Tesla and everything about it, here are some very good key points that Tesla points out. Obviously, they are the longest range electric vehicle out there. They can go 402 miles without needing a charge. If you going back to that Rivian, theirs only was able to do 300 miles. So obviously beat them. They are able to have a self-driving autopilot that came out back in 2014. They are innovators. They're the first company to take action in the electric car race, to make electric cars and create a fleet that's trying to be reasonable to the public as well. In 2014, Elon Musk got rid of all patents. He felt that he wanted to make the designs for electric vehicles that anyone can use. He wanted basically to pave the way to make electric cars rule the world. That way, no one will have trouble recreating that. And then lastly, we have the tax incentive. Basically, that is if you have a Tesla and some other qualifying electric cars, as of January of this year, it qualifies for a tax credit up to $7,500. And then next up, we're gonna hand it over to Stefan.
Hey everyone. So for the problems with EVs, I refer to them as EVs, electric vehicles, is basically it's broken down into three major problematic components, that being immediate problems, environmental problems, and societal status problems. Next slide. Some immediate problems you can expect with EVs are the recharging, the range, and the car life expectancy. First is recharging. With EVs, it's broken down into three different levels of charging. There's level 1 where you can expect to wait 40 hours for you to be fully recharged. Level 2 is about 5 to 6 hours to be fully recharged. And then with level 3, you can expect about 30 minutes for that style of charger. But in comparison to gas, that only takes a couple of minutes. When it comes down to range, range can be a problem to some and not an issue to others. It just depends on how frequently you intend to travel with your EV. To the right, you could see a small example I have where it compared a EV to a gas-powered vehicle. And if you were departing from Las Vegas in particular, that is the radius. So in 2021, the average range of an EV was only 217 miles, and the average range of a gas vehicle was around 413. So, I mean, this kind of means that if you want to drive outside of that radius or you want to go long distance, you might have to plan that trip and have a different estimated time of arrival. And then lastly, you got the car's life expectancy. So for most EVs, the average battery life for their vehicle is only like 10 years long. And a replacement can cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. And most people usually don't have that kind of money, just ready to go for any type of repairs or battery effects. Next slide, please. So for the environmental problems, for the first one, obviously, is resources. And the batteries in the EVs are primarily made out of three components, being lithium, cobalt, and nickel. These resources have to be mined, produced in factories, and also transported. All of this production for the vehicle, just to be produced and going towards its manufacturing and release, cost a whole lot of emissions and produces a whole lot of pollution just in the process before the car's even started. Secondly is recycling, which it kind of sounds like a positive thing, but actually, when you're recycling the EV and the EV batteries, you have to transport the old battery, and then actually the production companies and the factories that actually recycle it are actually also emitting, bad gases into the air as well. And then for the last one is about diesel. So it's not a new problem that we've encountered. Not too long ago, there was a huge push for diesel engines to take over gas engines, and there was also government incentives like the EVs have right now. But this later all backfired because it was initially thought to be more environmentally friendly, and that diesel does produce less CO2, but in reality, diesel vehicles also emit toxic matter, and it's been shown to significantly impact public health overall. Next slide. So for the societal status problems, it's primarily the fault of the consumer for why we see more short-term solutions and constantly new vehicles entering the market year-round. Especially in the US, the vehicle you can drive can be more than just transportation. It can be an expression, a novelty, or even a representation of what societal class you want to be perceived in. This behavior from the car consumer on average, it kind of leads to Americans only holding their cars for 5 to 8 years, when in reality, the car can easily run for 15 to 20 plus years if taken care of properly. The car companies actually react off of the consumer's behavior, and this is all due to a need, or really just a want, for the buyers to get the new features, styling, models, and to keep up with their peers. And lastly, we've seen something similar with Apple and iPhone, who constantly release new versions, features, and making the consumer have the desire to keep up, and making the process of getting the latest model like a societal norm. Next slide. So are electric cars the solution for the future? So talking about gas, gas-powered vehicles have been the primary transportation for years, but the long-term effects on the planet are calling for an alternative solution. And electric vehicles are here, and more companies are shifting towards the EV boom and are anticipating the 2035 gas engine ban. But overall, in conclusion, even though there are problems with producing the electric cars and everything that comes with them, we're too far along and too invested to go backwards, and time is of the essence. So next slide. Thank you. That's our presentation.
Very good. I remember that was 10 years ago, I was presenting to the students the fact that people were buying less cars. And there was one study, several studies that were showing that people were buying less cars because of the iPhone. So you have to imagine people, they are, sort of bored, and they say, oh, I need to buy something. I need to buy, there's the pressure. And so they were diverting this, I need to buy before 2000 towards buying a new car. Oh, I need a new car. Why do you need a new car? Oh, I just need a new car. You don't need a new car. Wow, I need something new. And when it comes to something new, a car was the new thing. And then the phone became the new thing that people will want to change. And that fact that they say, oh, I need to feel better about myself, I need to buy something new, they would line up in front of the Apple store and buy the new phone. And that had a direct impact on people buying new cars. They were not buying them as much. And then came the electric car. And so the electric car is the saver for the car industry, because now that's more exciting than buying a new phone. It's a big electric phone, essentially. And so there's a company called Foxconn. Anyone knows Foxconn? Foxconn. So Foxconn is the largest company in Taiwan. And they, in October, they announced that they were going to be producing 80% of the car in the world. 80% from Foxconn. If you put Foxconn on Google, you will find that, they are the biggest company. They actually make the iPhones. They are the largest producer of the iPhones and the iPads and all of these chips that we couldn't get during the COVID, and we couldn't make Fords and Chevrolets and all this, because it's produced by Foxconn. And so Foxconn is saying that they will be producing all the cars of the future, even though they've never produced any car. But they said it was very easy to produce a car because it's essentially an iPhone and a hair dryer. It's like a hair dryer because you have an electric engine with something that turns with a lot of electronics like an iPhone. So they say, thank you very much, the world, to be changing towards electric cars because they couldn't make a car because a car has too many components. And to make a car is a huge investment. A car, as it has been made for the past 100 years, it's too huge investments, too many research and development, too many complicated things, and they couldn't compete. But now that it's about making an electric car, they are all over that. So actually, if you go on YouTube and you put Foxconn, you're going to see a lot of media that are showing you the new cars that Foxconn is going to make. And in fact, just a few months ago, they said that probably in 5 to 10 years, they probably will be producing all the Tesla as well. They say we're probably going to have the Tesla go away from America and be produced in Taiwan. But then what's interesting is to produce these batteries, you have to use cobalt and lithium that was just mentioned by us. And if you look at where the cobalt and the lithium comes, and mostly the cobalt, it comes from one country. I mean, one country is like 98% of the cobalt. And what's the name of that country? Anyone knows?
Isn't it in Africa somewhere?
Yeah, it's in Africa. It's Zaire. It used to be called Zaire. How is it called now? Congo.
Ah.
So it's in Congo. So Congo produces about 80%. And most of the mines are controlled by Chinese companies. And most of the mines are harvested by children. So they use mostly children to produce the cobalt because the cobalt mining is very difficult and it's very small holes. So the children are much better to use in order to produce the cobalt. So if you have access to CNN or the Washington Post or MSNBC, you just put in their search engine, you know, cobalt mining and slavery, and you will see that the slavery in Africa has regained a lot thanks to the electric cars and phones. So slavery is back in fashion now, African slavery. And so it's very interesting that the world is considering one pollution against slavery, against all of these as being better. So it's just very strange. That's what I was telling you before when I was asking the students about tattoo, and people said, I like my boyfriend because he has tattoo, versus another girl say, I like my boyfriend. So before it was pretty eyes, sense of humor, and a lot of muscle. Then it became, has no tattoo, pretty eyes, sense of humor, and there's a lot of muscle. So this was a new component. And so what's interesting with the consumers and the market is constantly see for the changes and for the suddenly the new component that comes. And now the new component is called zero emission. And zero emission is a marketing concept that was not invented by Bernie's, but it was invented by, can I say, an adept of Bernie's. Bernie's would have, if Bernie's was still alive, he would have been the inventor of the zero emission concept. Zero emission doesn't mean no pollution. Zero emission means there's no smoke that comes out of the vehicle. But if you actually measure the amount of pollution from the electric car, from the impact, you know, the overall impact, and one impact that is very hard to measure is how long do the people are going to use electric car? Is there such be a thing such as a classic car, electric, in 50 years that people are going to parade with? Maybe not. In fact, if you buy a car in 2000, right now you actually threw it away because the electronic components broke so often that you got rid of your car. So usually that's what failed first in a car. So now your car don't have any more mechanic components, so only electronic, and they would fail. So another thing that is very interesting is if you look at the Americans, why did they buy Japanese car? Because the Japanese car, as you know, in the 60s pretty much didn't exist, and now it's the most desirable car in the United States, Lexus, Honda, and so forth, is because they were very reliable. So it's the same thing. Why do you buy a car? Because it's reliable, And then what else? And I buy it because it's safe or because it's fast and all of this. You have the criteria. Now, if you put reliability to the benchmark of electric cars, you will find that the most reliable electric car is equal to the least reliable gas power car. So it's very strange because you almost like think of a robot. Is you say, listen to me, robot. When you buy a gas power car, the number one reason is reliable. Okay, sir, reliable, reliable, reliable. And then you go, and then you end up with a Honda. And then you say, no, you're going to buy an electric car. Don't think reliability anymore. Think zero emission, zero emission, zero emission, zero emission. And so when they actually benchmark electric car compared to normal gas power car, they find that they fail terribly. The reliability of electric cars is really bad, and the number of recall that they have on electric car is many times worse than any car historically. Even a Datsun, whatever this and that has a bad reputation is still better than an electric car. So what I'm trying to say is it's very interesting how people have changed criteria, selection criteria, because it's an electric car, and how this has changed and how things are being measured. It's very important to stay lucid, and Lucid is another brand of electric cars that are just a very expensive Tesla. So take a Tesla, make it more expensive, and hope that people are going to think it's better. And that's what Lucid did. It's a brand of a very expensive Tesla. And so that's the world that we live in. And it's very important to look at the criteria. Oftentimes, what you do as a marketer is you hope people don't go in depth. And what you want is create the best slogan. And think about what people want to hear. Give the people what they want to hear. And sort of create, make sure that the perception is satisfying people's interest. So thank you for exposing us to this subject of the electric car. I wanted this to be sort of the last of the elements. What we're going to do now is listen to Nishwaki and see how the group 5 has seen Nishwaki. And I guess it's you, Rodney. Are you? Am I sharing with you?
Yes, I think Mike has a quick question though before we start.
Okay, sorry, Mike, I didn't see that.
Thanks, Rodney. I'll be really brief. I found it really interesting. I wrote in the chat. This is super. I never thought of comparing iPhone to Tesla, but it seems kind of accurate because Tesla is very design oriented.
Yeah.
And, everything is about my supervisor at the Coast Guard base just bought a Tesla, and he's such a non-Tesla individual, but he was sold on it. Because you can program a fart noise into it. That's what made him buy it.
Oh yeah.
If you can believe that, like you can program your Tesla to fart. And that's why he got this car. It's very odd to me that a high-end, really design-oriented, sexy vehicle would include that feature, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's all the gadget.
It is, yeah. And he says what he loves about it is when he gets in it, it makes this sound. You know?
Oh yeah.
It's like the easiest things will like entice someone to buy something.
Yeah, yes.
It's a toy.
It's a toy, exactly. It reminds me when I was in the 70s going to a little school, and then we were looking at each other watch. And this was the quartz watch revolution. And I remember I had a watch that was just saying the hour, the minute, and the second. And then a kid came and said, oh, look, I have the same thing than you, and I have the date. And then there's a kid that came one day and he had a quartz. And so then he said, I have the months, I tell you when the moon is coming, I can calculate, I can tell you the weather. And we looked at the watch and we said, what is this? Oh, it's a Casio. Casio, I've never heard of it.
Oh,
Where the heck is from? It's from Japan. And then we're all looking at our Swiss watches and saying, man, our watching are worthless. Piece of crap from Switzerland. All of these Japanese watches are so much better. They are smaller and they have 200 functions, which you only use 5, at the end. But it was every week there was a kid coming with a watch with more and more functions that you didn't use, but they were there because it was all electronic inside. And eventually all those watch had nothing. I mean, I know Casio came back again, but I mean, now you look at a Swiss watch from the 70s, it's worth $3,000 because it's mechanically made and all of this. There's something left.
I'll bet you there's only 2 people in this cohort that wear an actual watch on their wrist.
Well, and
I'm not counting like an iPhone watch, which is a phone on your wrist. I'm just talking about like a watch like this.
An analog. Well, mine is like the numbers, not digital.
Oh, okay. There you go, Aubrey. So there's 2 of us. Who else?
Well, but what happened is there's more and more though of people that went back. So there's a trend towards going back watches, but people use them as a piece of jewelry. It's not anymore for the time, it's for lifestyle and fashion.
I see.
So yeah.
Cool. All right.
Very interesting. So the point I'm trying to make with this is that you have to keep up with the consumers and the way people perceive things, and things evolved, and whatever is today's our opinion, the next generation is going to change it, and it's very important to keep up. And so that's the job of someone who works in marketing. Now we're going to hear Nishwaki, and that's the last presentation. And whenever you're ready, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Aubrey, go ahead.
Muted. My bad. Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. We are Advancers Marketing, and we are here to present about Nishwaki. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Advancers team. We have Daniel, Rodney, Evelyn, Crystal, Noah, Amaya, Veronica, and myself, Aubrey. We're going to take a moment and look at who you are and the direction you are headed. You are an emerging rap and hip hop artist that was born in St. Lucia and currently reside in Los Angeles, California. Since 2018, you have released 12 singles, 2 EPs, and have 12 collaborations under your belt. According to Chartmetric, you're in the development stage of your career. Because of this, there is a lot of room to develop your brand and to grow your name in the rap and hip hop space. Looking at your social media platforms, your audience is still in the growth stage as well. Once you establish a brand, we will be able to focus on marketing to grow your fan base. As you're an artist that is just starting his career out in rap and hip hop, we wanted to take a moment to share some of your music with everyone.
Broken roses, you're not coming home tonight. My arms are open now, but there's no one to hold me tight. I've seen you with another. It bleeds in right through my mind. There's nothing else to live for. These memories will keep me blind.
Now that everyone has all had a taste of you, let's get into the biggest problem you're facing. And what is the problem you're facing? Your lack of brand keeps you from developing an audience, your audience. Having a brand not only leaves a memorable impression on your fan base, but also communicates to fans what to expect from you. It is imperative that you find a way to distinguish yourself in a saturated music genre. And from here, I'm going to pass it on to Noah.
Thank you, Aubrey, for that great introduction. So in speaking in terms of your music and where it falls genre-wise on a spectrum between melancholic, energetic, uplifting, and relaxed, we see your music falling in between the uplifting and relaxed axes. In comparison to other known artists, your music sonically aligns most with the sounds of artists like Farruko and Khalid. We feel that your music has a chill and relaxed energy while also remaining uplifting with a positive feel to it. What does your music stand for? Your music focuses on 3 main aspects: positivity, fun, and philosophy. Your vibe encapsulates an uplifting feel with visuals from beautiful locations and a laid-back, vibrant energy. Friendship, collaborations, anime, and creativity are common themes in your music. Your philosophy in music emphasizes introspection, martial arts discipline, and respect. These are all accurate ways to describe your music and what it stands for. We see your opportunities translating into 4 different phases, spreading out into a time period of 4 years. For the first phase, we will dive into your martial arts journey and go over our plan for the anime avatar.
We will then delve deeper into anime for phase 2, as well as talk about some sync licensing ideas for execution. Moving into phase 3, we will discuss Tiny Desk and how that can act as a beneficial tool for you, and talk about how you can use the Afrobeat scene to your advantage. Lastly, for phase 4, we will cover NFTs and how we can see you benefiting from them. I will now pass it on to Veronica, who will take you through phase 1 in some more detail.
Thank you, Noah. For phase 1, you will start defining your branding through a martial arts journey, live visuals, and an anime avatar. There are only a small number of musicians who practice martial arts. It is estimated that around 10 to 20% of musicians practice martial arts. This opens a wide range of opportunities for you. Here we have the Wu-Tang Clan, a hip-hop group from New York. They have been a very influential group in the hip-hop genre. And since forming the group in 1992, RZA, one of the founding members of the Wu-Tang Clan, has mixed references and samples from old school kung fu movies and also the Chinese culture into his music. RZA became influenced by watching movies and imitating what he saw, which led him to formally start training in martial arts when he was 11 years old. Dolph Lundgren, mostly known for his role as boxer Drago in the Rocky movies, began playing drums in his youth. Lundgren has hosted and performed in various European musical competitions. He practices martial arts like karate and has stated that karate has kept him sane in the very tough and often spiritually empty business. Even the king of rock and roll practiced karate. Elvis practiced Kenpo karate and earned an 8th degree black belt. You mentioned that you are not a professional martial artist, but are interested in this art form. Here you are, Nishwaki, the martial artist. We know that you're in the beginning stages of your practice as a martial artist and think that you do not have to become a world champion in this, but keep in mind all the positive elements of being a musician and a martial artist. You will establish harmony and balance between your beliefs and music through martial arts practice. Both require good body awareness and control. Martial arts will help you maintain a discipline as a musician, and it will also help you stay healthy. It is a form of physical and mental therapy. You can use your martial artist persona to add mystery to your music and keep fans interested by having them guess what your next move will be. Mix elements of judo or karate into your artwork. People often look for heroes, and fans may definitely start looking at you as a hero, and you can become that hero. Fans will want to see you turn into an animated character who ventures out into the world fighting crime by using your powers of music and martial arts. Now, consumer research expert Russ Krupnick from Music Watch released results from a study on the hottest topics on social media. The study found that social media users follow music and musical artists more frequently than any other types of celebrities and content, and 9 out of 10 participate in some industry-related activity on social media apps. You have Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, so your next move should be to increase your activity in these. There have also been interviews conducted where people have stated that they would love to see musicians and their journeys in martial arts. There are many benefits surrounding sharing martial arts journeys and practices via social media. Fans can follow you on social media and will be able to see your progress and celebrate your successes. You can share your workout routines on social media accounts, share with your fans your weekly workout schedule, and post motivational messages. You and your fans will further develop an appreciation for each other, and overall, this will help increase your numbers of followers. Now, Rodney will talk about your opportunity in the world of animation.
Thank you, Veronica. In an article written by The Face, a music news company, it was noted that the COVID-19 pandemic had altered the very fabric of the music industry, particularly those currently based in the US. Unable to execute many planned live action video concepts, therefore, a new age has dawned for the animated music video. Live action music videos come at a high cost, especially if you have extravagant ideas. However, you can achieve a much more creatively and near limitless palette of creative expression when working in animation. It lends itself particularly well to fantastical visuals, similar to the ones you are interested in. One of the many successful case studies that we want to use as an example is the band The Gorillaz, whose animated personas, along with those of famous rappers, made them both highly distinguishable and successful because of it. The band members originally had complex backstories and their stage shows would involve animated or 3D versions of them playing their instruments. The Gorillaz' self-titled debut in 2001 sold 2.4 million albums, with its 2005 follow-up Demon Days, which continued the use of the animated band members, selling over 3 million albums. However, in more recent years, there has been less of a focus on the made-up characters within the band than on the actual musicians. And this has seemed to reflect in their album sales, as many of their recent releases never continued the massive success as when the band was utilizing their animated personas. As you're very interested in animation, we are suggesting that you introduce a cartoon version of yourself and have it be a themed visual in the back of your concerts, as this will make your live experiences more memorable and distinguishable from other artists. Not only is using an animated persona unique and distinguishable, but in case that you need to take a break from in-person shows, you can continue to stay relevant through animated series, as well as online interactive animated concerts. You can use this animated figure in music videos and throughout your socials and create a theme to show your journey through the animated space. Moving forward, we want you to lean more into the animated space and begin to utilize your music in not only your own animated journey, but also seek success in other ventures as well. Amaya will now go into detail about the following phase, which will detail an opportunity in anime as well as sync licensing.
Yes, so since you've expressed interest in anime, we wanted to make sure to include that passion of yours into your marketing and branding as stated before. But first, we do want to go into a quick analysis of the anime market. So according to Grand View Research, studies show that the anime market is expected to be worth $48 billion by 2028. Additionally, 9.5% of the growth within the market from 2021 to 2028 can be attributed to the rising popularity of anime content worldwide. So this is definitely a lucrative and viable next step for you for sure. And also to the right of the screen, there is another, potential mock-up of a cartoon/anime form that you can begin to incorporate within your content as well. So once again, with you expressing your interest in anime, we felt that dipping your toe into sync licensing opportunities within the anime industry would be a great fit for you within this phase 2 of breaking you into the different avenues within the entertainment industry. So a potential placement could be an episode of Dragon Ball Z or One Piece Unlimited, which is a video game series, which we will dive a bit further into with Crystal.
Thank you, Amaya. So as mentioned, the anime market is rapidly growing. So how does your music sound pair with a classic anime? You're probably wondering how a modern artist's music is placed in the 1979 Japanese film. Before giving you and everyone a listen, Galaxy Express 999 is about a boy who travels to space on a determined quest to avenge his mother's death. And now I present to you Express 999 with your soundtrack, Space Cookies.
Show me what it's like to feel alive. I haven't felt it in a while. Tell me what a real love feels like. You know that I'm the jealous side. Moving, you keep me on my business to move. Find me with the body tight. What's another right, you know my life. You see my life with things to say.
We just provided you with a glimpse of your music soundtrack with anime. Your music has the potential to cross over into anime. If Flying Lotus had a success, you can too. Flying Lotus is an African-American record producer, rapper, and the music producer for Netflix anime series Yasuke. So how did anime crossover work out for Flying Lotus? The Yasuke album was released in 2021 and increased dramatically in sales and streaming compared to his non-anime album from 2020. Nishwaki, you can also become an in-house producer and collaborate on an anime series similar to Flying Lotus project Yasuke. This opportunity will allow you to increase revenue streams due to the growing market of anime. And now Evelyn will talk about phase 3, Tiny Desk and Afrobeat scene.
In phase 3 of our marketing plan, our goal is to continue introducing you to new audiences by having you enter NPR's Tiny Desk contest for emerging new artists and introduce you to the Afrobeat community with the help of musical collaborators. Since 2008, NPR Music has hosted their annual Tiny Desk concert for musicians and creators nationwide. The contest allows for independent, unsigned musicians like yourself to gain exposure and reach large audiences. To enter, you will create a video where you are performing an original song behind a desk, similar to the way you'd perform it on Tiny Desk. If you win the contest, you'll receive the amazing opportunity to play the Tiny Desk concert at NPR studio in Washington, D.C., where artists like Mac Miller, Billie Eilish, and Anderson .Paak have all previously performed at. With the help of NPR's 7.63 million YouTube subscribers, your Tiny Desk performance will be watched by millions of music fans who will all be introduced to your music. You will also be featured on NPR's All Things Considered. All Things Considered is the most listened to afternoon drive time news radio in the country. Lastly, if you win the contest, you will have the chance to headline NPR's Tiny Desk on the Road tour. The mini tour stops in cities like Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Seattle, New York, and Los Angeles. With the exposure from being featured on NPR's Tiny Desk, All Things Considered, and their contest tour, we are positive this exposure will attract a larger fan base for you and help boost your music career to stardom. To enter, you will upload your video submission onto YouTube before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, March 19th, 2023. We know you are a perfect candidate for NPR's Tiny Desk contest because of your passion to perform and your eagerness to explore new career opportunities. To continue, we are aware that there is a huge Afrobeat community in Oakland, California. Because of this, it is in our best interest to encourage you to surround yourself and collaborate with Afrobeat musicians like Big Clef. Big Clef is a Nigerian Afrobeats musician based in the Bay Area. He currently has 14,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and his latest music video for One Life currently has 38,000 views on YouTube. Yacht parties have become quite popular among the Afrobeat community in the Bay Area, and as a result, Big Clef and a few other Afrobeat musicians have been actively hosting private ticketed events and concerts on yachts for limited groups of fans. With the help of Big Clef, we believe it would be a great opportunity for you to introduce your music to this thriving music audience while making industry friends along the way. We hope that you associating yourself with Big Clef and the Afrobeat community will help you build a larger fan base where you could continue building your music brand. Now, here's Daniel to talk to you a little bit about blockchains and possible NFTs.
For phase 4, you'll get into the blockchain space. Specifically, we'll have you venture into cryptocurrencies and NFTs, CryptoPunks to be specific. The world of cryptocurrencies and NFTs is rapidly evolving, and it's exciting to see artists like you take advantage of this trend. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are unique digital assets that can be used to represent ownership of a piece of artwork or music. Your entry into the blockchain space is a smart move, and it will allow you to monetize your music and reach a new audience. Now back to Noah for our timeline.
To wrap things up and summarize, our plan for you includes phases 1 through 4, beginning with your martial arts journey and the anime avatar, moving into anime in general and sync licensing, which will be followed by Tiny Desk and the Afrobeat scene, and then concluding with NFTs. In driving this plan into implementation, we see your development artistry growing in new and creative ways that will significantly advance your career, no pun intended. Thank you for your time, and we hope to hear your thoughts soon.
Thank you.
Well, excellent. Congratulations. This is great. I'm really excited because I feel that you understand what you've presented, which was not the case maybe early on when we started in January, you know, where all of this was sort of a foreign language. Now, as you're presenting it, I can even see that you looked at the presentation that I gave you and even selected pieces of this presentation of things that you wanted to present, that you agreed, that makes sense to you versus the one that didn't make sense. Like the cruise, you didn't put the cruise in there.
Yes.
Which was in the previous. So I'm sure you discussed the cruise, and the opportunity of the cruise didn't make sense to you, so you just tossed it, and instead you kept this and all that. So, congratulations, because I hope you do very, very well with the Android gems, because there's obviously some overlaps and ideas maybe that you can reuse.
Yep.
But when it comes to Nishwaki, I can see that you've totally grasped the concept now, and you're ready to go. Now you just have to do it for Android gems, but you're not in the absolute darkness. It's just finding those opportunities. You can see here that the artist had a lot of personal interests that were used in order to drive his progress and his brand. And so that's sort of what you got to find out with Android gems. How are you going to drive this? There were sections. Do you mind going back to it, because there's one that you've done I wanted to point. It's like maybe the third or fourth slide.
Sure.
I thought this was very good. What I found really good as well, and I think it was already done originally. So next one.
Let's see.
Yeah, after the video.
Okay.
No, after. So that was good. That's very important. But next one. Okay, yeah, this one. When you discuss the three elements that really shape the artist, the positivity, the fun, and the philosophy, I think that's really good. It would be great if there was at least one group that was able to create this kind of this summary, these three pointers about Android gems, and that if you were able to, because there's the big idea, which is positivity, but what goes inside positivity? What are the smaller elements that goes inside positivity? And eventually, if you were able to do that, then the thing that was super good is how you drive the phases. Right? I mean, you show the 4 phases and then you go one by one. It's very easy to follow your presentation because you use that format. So I'm hoping that you will sort of be inspired by this and try to do the same thing with Android gems.
Definitely.
And I gave you 2 presentations to work from, 2 PowerPoints and 2 videos.
Yes.
And the other one had the same thing as well. But you decided to use that one. But they were actually both, the Nishwaki were very good at conveying those phases. So I know you're all working very hard. You're still in a phase where you have a lot of work to do for Android gems. I would sort of ask you to go to the PowerPoint from the past client and browse through them, because most of you really spend a lot of time on your assigned client, and try to look at the other one, because now that you're all understanding what this is about, it's not going to take you hours to look at the other presentation. By just going through them, you're going to know, oh, I know what this is, I know what this is, oh, I know this. And then suddenly, by spending probably an hour looking at all of them, that's going to put you in a much better seat to create your own, having seen this. So I know this is an exercise, but I strongly recommend that you do this. And I'm not saying that you should copy the previous one, but I think by looking at the previous one all at once, dedicating an hour to just go through all of these, now that you know what they mean, you will find your own sort of presentation style. And so that's great. One thing I would like to do is to ask you again to send me your opportunities, or to send me something by 11:59 on Friday. So if you wanted to send it to me on Thursday, that's fine. But before the weekend, because I want to look at it over the weekend and send it to you over the weekend. And you actually, I answered within a few hours last Sunday, because as soon as I saw them, to tell you the truth, I was like a kid at Christmas. I just wanted to look at them because I was very curious. And so that's why you all got them before midnight, because I worked on it. I got them. There's only one that I got. It was like 12:30, and it was kind of, I didn't want to work on this at 1 a.m, because Monday, it's the first day of the week, you got to go at it. So, but at 11 p.m, I was working on people's thing. And so it's very likely that if I see them, I'm not going to help to want to look at them very quick. So send them to me whenever you want. But I'm suggesting before 11:59 on Friday. You don't have to break a sweat. If it's only, again, 2 or 3 bullet points telling me about the opportunities, that's fine. If there is more, you can send me more, but send me anything, because I want to give you some feedback, because that would mean that this is 7 days before D-Day, if it's on Friday. And so I want to be able to see as much as possible. Next Tuesday, we have the Canvas quiz 2 final. And there's a schedule just right after that because I want to be spending just a few minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes with each group to just see whatever they want to show me and say, we're very excited with this, but we don't know if it should be X or Y. Boom, you show me that PowerPoint and we'll get a focus. Yes, Rodney.
Yeah, one question I did have, I was looking at the syllabus for week 8 and the times that you had on there, I think they were slightly incorrect because they had like PM times and not AM times, but it said that the presentations were going to be between like 9 and 11:30 or so. So I was just making sure that that was going to get edited.
Yeah, yes. So it's Saturday morning. It's not Saturday night, huh?
Yeah, we were wondering. I was like, man, my Saturday night is
Saturday night.
Not that I'm opposed to it or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward. So, but Saturday night, maybe not. Yeah. So I'll, okay, so I'll definitely fix that. So don't come on Saturday night.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so after the quiz, we meet next week. It starts at 8, from 8 to 9:15. So the last group maybe a little go over. But if you have no other questions, we're gonna, so send me your opportunities, even tonight, whatever. If you want to do it twice between now and Friday, whatever. I'm just making myself available. Do it at least once. Okay. Oh yes, Noah, you have a question.
Sorry, just want to confirm we're
No
not
problem.
meeting this Saturday, correct?
No, we're not meeting this Saturday.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
We're not planned to. Oh yeah, this Saturday. But if you want to meet between now and next week, let me know. I'm happy to meet with you because it's important. But probably not Saturday. Yeah. So yeah, just keep in touch. Show me what you have. Tell me if we need to meet. I'm meeting a group actually on Thursday morning, so I can meet someone else maybe after or whatever. Just let me know. If you have no more questions, I'll let you go, and I will see you probably next Tuesday or by email before.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good night,
Thank
and I'll
you.
see you Thursday.
Yes.
Thank
See
you.
you Thursday. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.